Film Institute as co-presenters of this program. Thank you so much for getting the word out. This film won the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance, and it's a riveting, unfiltered look at Anthony Weiner's mayoral campaign in New York. We're delighted to have the directors here, Josh Kriegman and Elyse Steinberg. So they'll say a few words before the screening, and then they'll be back for Q&A. So please welcome Josh Kriegman and Elyse Steinberg.
I just wanted to say thanks for coming. Thanks to the festival and to everyone for having us. We're thrilled to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. And enjoy the film, and we'll be back after for a brief Q&A. Thanks.
First of all, thank you for making this amazing documentary. This is such a timely film right now in the midst of this election year. I'll start the Q&A and then we'll turn it over to the audience. I know they have lots of questions for you. So I just sort of like to expand on, Josh, your question at the end of the film. Why did you let me film you? How were you approached by Anthony Weiner and when? And was Huma ever involved in the discussion in terms of access?
Yeah, so a little backstory. I met Anthony when I was actually working in politics. I was his chief of staff when he was in Congress for a couple of years. And so he and I got to know each other well through that work, and then I left politics and started working with Elyse in filmmaking. And Anthony and I stayed in touch. And then when he got caught up in his sexting scandal and resigned from Congress, we started talking with him about the possibility of doing a documentary and telling his story. And it was really a conversation that went on over the course of a couple of years, going back and forth, trying to figure out if it was something that he would be comfortable with. And it actually looked like he was not going to go for it. Actually, after a lot of discussion, it seemed like he wasn't going to want to do it. And then the morning that he announced he was running for mayor, that video was released, and I got a text early that morning from him saying, "I'm running for mayor. I'm with my staff all day. If you want to come with a camera, you can." And I said, "Okay," and ran right over and texted Elyse on the way, and then we started filming. So it really was just, as we saw in the film, from the day he announced he was running all the way through to the end, we had access to film.
And was Huma at all involved in the discussion? Did she authorize a lot of this?
Well, the other question that you had about why did you let us film and the access, and the question that was posed at the end of the film, I mean, this was a question about that Josh and I also wondered. You know, why is he letting us film? And it was a question that we posed to Anthony at the end, as you can see directly. And Anthony does answer when he says that he wanted to be viewed as the full person that he was, and not as a punchline. And that was certainly our intention with the film. I mean, after Anthony's sexting scandal, he was just reduced to a caricature and a punchline. So our hope with this film was to show a more complex and nuanced portrait of him, and as well of Huma. I mean, just as Anthony was ridiculed, so was she. You can really see the judgment that was placed on her for making the decision to stay in the marriage. And our hope with this film was to show what it means to be at the center of a media firestorm. Show the humanity behind the headlines, beyond the the little snippet on New York Post. And I think while she's more quiet and reserved than Anthony, she shared some of his desires of wanting a more fair and complete story told.
Well, you see that when he's campaigning before the second scandal happened, that they were really unified. I mean, she was poking him, they were having a really great time, and then, so it seems like that campaign really sealed their relationship in a way that works for both of them, and
yeah, I mean, I think that they certainly were in it together. One of the things from a filmmaking perspective, as you saw, things were going really well early on. For about half of the campaign, he was really defying expectations, and the whole, everyone watching was really sort of amazed. Oh my God, he could be mayor here. New Yorkers seem to be forgiving him, and I think that they both had this sense of, they had, as he says in the beginning, kind of maybe gotten their life back. And then, of course, things took a different turn.
Are there questions from the audience? Yes, sir. what's the timeline of your time with Anthony?
Yeah, so all the footage is from the campaign, except for this interview that we did with him, which was a few months after the end of the campaign.
Yes.
The Clintons about any part of this, because it seems like Uma was getting withdrawn probably from pressure from the Clintons compared to how she was earlier. And, you know, talk about calling the kettle black. If the Clintons had anything to do with Uma being, you know, wanting to back off from this, it's just kind of remarkable. I wonder if you had to approach them at all.
We had no contact with we didn't have much. We didn't have contact with the Clinton campaign. We were able to make this film independently, and we haven't had any communication with them. And what you see in the film about the pressure that Uma was under is what we captured. I mean, I think she was in just a media firestorm, and she was getting a lot of pressure. You know, one of the things, as we were saying, that we were excited about is to show what it means to be a mom, to be a wife, a mother, a person with a really important job, as Uma is, and just caught in this crazy firestorm. And but what you see, what we saw in the film.
Yes, in the corner.
Yes, there was something that was obviously left out. Yes, there was a couple of things left out of the documentary. One was, and I get this from a lot of people, that there was a lesbian relationship between Uma and Hillary. And the second thing is there is no mention of the guy Breitbart, who uncovered the first scandal involving, Weiner.
This is part of the nature of our world now is there's a lot of different stories.
Thank you. Two questions. One is, has Weiner seen the film? And the second one was, I thought that it was really curious, the music that you used at the end in closing. It was a very bluegrassy, banjo, saw kind of thing, and that really didn't quite fit in with the New York. So just wondering what the choice was on that.
It's a good question. Well, the first part was, so Anthony has not seen the film. We offered to show it to him a number of times, many months ago actually, before we were even totally finished with the film, and he didn't want to see it. So it's an open invitation. He's welcome to see it whenever he wants, and we assume that he will at some point, probably soon.
I mean, in terms of the music, one of the things that's really exciting for Josh and I was that we wanted an eclectic batch of music, just like New York is eclectic, just like Anthony is, complicated and eclectic. And what we had, Jeff Beal scored our music, and then we also licensed songs by the Beastie Boys and other New York groove. The end credit song was actually our sound mixer wrote it, and one of the things, the theme of that song, it has a nice style of both an optimism but also melancholy. So that song really spoke to us of where we wanted to leave viewers at the end of the film.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
Hi. I think you did a phenomenal job on this. First of all, I really congratulate you. It was fabulous. Can you tell us, what are they both doing now?
Yeah. So Uma is the vice chair of Hillary's campaign. So she's very involved in working on the presidential race, doing a lot of traveling and with Hillary. And Anthony is, as you saw at the end, there's a couple clips of him as a pundit on some news shows. Bill Maher, he does some political punditry and consulting work now. And also is very much, while Uma is traveling a lot, he's very much taking care of their, I think now, 5-year-old son. So.
And is he still involved in sort of local politics as a spokesman? Is he active in New York politics?
He's still very much a commentator. I mean, he has a regular column in the daily paper in New York. He has a regular appearance on a local news show in New York. So yeah, he's very much a part of the conversation still. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Glasses? Oh well, first and then.
Thank you for your great film. I did get the impression that Anthony Weiner's blind spot is still a blind spot because I don't think he really looked into the depths of, whether it's not just a personal feeling, but about the relations between men and women in general. I feel like even Ross Mercarimi here in San Francisco has looked deeper into his problems than Anthony Weiner has, at least what I can judge from public statements. But anyway, what do you have to say?
Well, one of the things that's been really exciting for Josh and I is that after the screening, people have a range of reactions to Anthony, to Huma, and there's a lot of discussions about what they're taking away and what they're seeing of him. Some people feel that they didn't get enough, some people feel they got so much from him. But I do think that you're right. There is this, he's a fascinating character, and he has this remarkable self-awareness and insight, and then utter blindness, which he even acknowledges. At the end, when he says, I have this unlimited ability to fuck up things day by day. And you see that tension throughout the film, that mixture, and that's a classic Shakespearean character who, their strengths and their weaknesses, and that dichotomy of being so self-aware, so insightful, and then so blind, and that plays out for sure.
So to just follow up on that, because that's what I felt so much when I first saw the film is just really a lot of sadness, because he has so much potential.
Yeah.
And he really wants to do so much for his city and his people. Did you ever feel like just shaking him, like when at the bakery, the man says, why did he have to do it? It's going so well. It's just this kind of tipping over the edge. Was it ever was it an instinct every now and then to say, stop it? Or whispering like the fly on the wall comments, like you're not supposed to talk, but somehow you can't resist, right? So.
Yeah, from the perspective of being there with him through it all, my feeling about it really was just doing my very best just to capture it. But, I was very much in the mode of, wanting to capture this thing as it unfolded. There definitely were moments where it was very clear that he was not in the mood to talk, right? Where I understood that, it would be better to hang back and just film. And there were other moments where I got the sense that maybe he might be open to a question or prodding or, some effort to try to get him to reflect a bit. That fly on the wall moment is one of them. He reacts obviously to my question. But yeah, no, it was definitely a bit of a balancing act or a dance of sort of trying to figure out, how to, stay with him through it all.
And you still see him, you're on friendly terms with?
Yeah.
Hi, thank you. That was a fascinating film. I was just wondering, what type of access did you have, and did you have to negotiate that? And also, at some point, did you feel that you could be shut down, that he was going to say, okay, let's stop it right now?
Yeah, the ground rule really going in was, if he ever wanted me to stop filming, I of course would respect that boundary. And that was understood by everybody in the campaign. If anyone didn't want to be filmed, I would film them. You see one moment in the film where he says, he says enough and asks me to leave the room. And that really was it. Otherwise, the understanding was, I wanted to film everything, and that was, what we wanted to do. So.
Yes, sir.
Hi. As filmmakers, how do you navigate striking the balance between thinking you might have a gold-willed material and also perpetuating the feedback loop that he's concerned about when you know that you're filming him as much as everyone on the street is?
I think that, we had over 400 hours of footage. Yes. And one of the things for us is that we were just going to focus on the material and the story and tell the best possible story as possible. And we gave ourselves, we worked on this for 3 years. So we looked through all the material. We talked about what would be the most compelling, complicated, thought-provoking film we could make, and we tried to tune out everything else, not, just focus on really what they say, the film we would want to watch.
Yeah, I mean, there was a moment. There was a moment where I think to your question, there was a moment where right after the scandal broke, where he was about to jump out of the car and into it was like this the day after the scandal broke, and we're in the car and he's about to jump out. And you can see through the window just a horde of media waiting for him, and he opens the door and says, as he's walking out over his shoulder, he says back to me, "Huh, this is working out pretty well for you, huh, Josh?" Right? So there was a sense, of course, that there was sort of this interesting role that we were in of capturing it, but also capturing the media capturing it. And he says at the end, not wanting, is this going to be sucked into the same vortex as everything else? And of course, our hope is that it's not, but that we're able to do something in an hour and a half that is deeper and more interesting than what we might see play out in the tabloids and the headlines and the news.
Yeah, I was just wondering, and you hear this occasionally from documentary filmmakers, that your personal sort of feelings towards the main protagonist changes over the course of making the film. You had a relationship with him as chief of staff. I mean, how has your sort of feelings about him as an individual change over the course of making the documentary and impact how the final version of the film?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I actually don't know that my feelings about him changed all that much, honestly, through the course of it all. I mean, what was exciting to me about the film was feeling like I had, having spent so much time with him and gotten to know him so well, that I had a sense of him as a pretty multifaceted, dynamic, and complex guy. And then watching him sort of be reduced to this one thing, this caricature, this punchline through the course of the scandal, I think what we were excited about was just giving a chance to kind of expand the picture of him. And that's we hope that that's some of what people take away, is realizing that he's much more nuanced and complex than you might think.
And for me, unlike Josh, I didn't know Anthony prior to working on this film, so I was much like the audience. All I knew was what I had seen in the headlines and the tabloids, and I didn't have much of an opinion of him, and maybe sort of a negative one. But when I got to meet Anthony and look through the footage, my feelings definitely changed, and I got to see him as a very complicated and fascinating character, and so that was good in our collaboration. We had those different perspectives.
Thank you. Great film. Really, truly, you guys did an amazing job telling a fascinating story. What I thought was really interesting is on election day, Uma looked like she pretty much hit a wall and was kind of done with him, or was close to getting done with him. I guess my question for you is, filming that scene, did you guys think at some point that was going to be the end of the two of them? Were you sort of surprised that they're still married and got through that difficult period? And by the way, did the woman who wanted to confront him, his sexting partner, ever get to do that?
So I think that with Anthony and Huma, a lot of, part of the film is to show the marriage and the strain that it was under amidst this crazy media firestorm. But I think one of the things that is true with all relationships is just impossible to judge what was, unless you're in it, you don't know. And I think that is definitely our experience. As observing it, it was just you can't really judge. But what we were excited about, as I think we've talked about, is just showing that difference of the judgment that was out there the media story that was out there, and then the private story. And I think there's a lot of loud noise in the film, but those quiet moments, those intimate moments between them, those were the impactful moments that spoke volumes to for our film. Yeah.
And no, Sydney and others never actually did end up confronting Anthony. The McDonald's plan worked.
Yes, in the corner, and then this will have to be the last question. Okay.
I was wondering, given that you had 400 hours of footage at first, and condensed it to an hour and a half, it's obviously 398 hours of footage that had to be navigated and edited and thought about. And I'm just thinking about all the decisions that were involved in sort of saying, not that, not that, not that, and then coming down to just an hour and a half. And part of, and I'm also thinking about how, there's an effort to clear through some of just the splashiness of the story of Weiner's campaigning and personal life. And then the need to make a film that has a kind of coherence and effectiveness that has something of a splash to it. So I guess I'm wondering how you don't kind of end up reinforcing the message you're trying to undo. That's one question I have. And if you feel like there's anything really left out in the 398 hours that really the choices were made to leave out.
That's my cousin. Just last question. Let's see. So I think I don't know if I'm going to answer those questions in order, but it's a big challenge having what to include, and it's like a person. You're always feeling like, could I have put this in? Could I have put that in? But we try to do the best to navigate telling a story, having that story have larger ideas. And I think we didn't talk about it, but one of the themes that we were trying to get across was about our politics. I mean, yes, we focused on Anthony and the campaign, but for us, the film was more than that, about how our politics today is driven by entertainment and spectacle. We do not have to look very far to see that played out in today's current presidential campaign with Donald Trump. So that was important for us to come through. And but then in terms of our role, I think that it was important for us to acknowledge our presence, and we did that in the beginning and in the end at certain points to sort of show an authenticity that we are creating the story. It's we're here, we're creating it, and it's not this objective truth here. It's our version of how we see it, and I think that was our way of acknowledging that we're also storytellers, and that has its own issues.
I just want, to the first point about politics, I think Donald Trump has said now over the past couple of days that he's bragging about how he could be presidential if he wants to be, but then very openly acknowledging, but then the rallies wouldn't be any fun, and he wouldn't be getting any attention, and he's literally saying exactly that. And I was just reading that, just in terms of our film. I mean, we hope that our film can speak to this moment that we're in, because when being presidential is detrimental to running for president, something weird is going on. So anyway, I just wanted to.
Yeah, and I just again want to congratulate you, because this is the perfect film for this time, and it's so perfectly made and briskly paced. So congratulations again.
Thank you. Thanks for watching.